Good evening. We're back with fresh news of our network. Professor Layton Mark this week everywhere in our network. You tune in, and this surely is not without a reason. Mostly happening on our site at broad interesting articles for you, so let's say this news edition is more Professor Layton one. Should I put his hat on? No, I won't go that far. His hat is only his and nobody else's, but why he wears it at all? Yes, this also is the question put in one of the articles, so let's begin with our news to hear more. For the first news of this week, we'll report of a new member to our forum again. This time he is Mr. Breach, who didn't post anything yet, but we all hope he will soon. Welcome to our forum, Mr. Breach, from Knight-Nui News Redaction as well. Professor Layton is about to cross over with Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney in a new game. For those who are fans of both, this surely is a great news, and also some of us are hardly waiting to see more of what's coming. In the meantime, there on our site you can read our first reaction to this news and trailers we've seen, but more about this article later in Site Updates News. Professor Layton's week was set for you this week, and we published several articles for this occasion. The first among them was the article with quite strange question: why does Professor Layton wear his hat? Did you ever really ask yourselves this question? We actually didn't until now. Professor Layton with his all-around-the-world famous hat was the fact for us, and was enough. We didn't need to question ourselves about this. But Level 5, as the producer of Layton Games, somehow decided to put even 6 games out which will unveil all details of Layton's life and existence which we maybe even didn't want to know at all. What about you? Are you interested in why Professor Layton wears that extra tall famous hat? Or it would be just enough for you as well to leave this mysterious puzzle left unsolved? Suggestion is you first read our article and maybe decided after that what would better suit you. Then here comes the argument between our two headmans about if this crossover really is a good idea or not. In an article with the title Professor Layton vs. Phoenix Wright Fight, both headmans, Knight-Nui and Knight-Nui, are giving their arguments for the defense and against the prosecution this game. Was it really a bright idea as Knight-Nui states, or was it all wrong as Knight-Nui's opinion is? Read the article and decide later when you'll know all the arguments for and against the game, which should feature both Professor Layton and Phoenix Wright. And so we're continuing Professor Layton week with some of the things you didn't know. There is 20 of them for you to read and discover. Interesting reading in which you get the knowledge of who voices Luke, what else was voiced by those actors, etc., etc. When you read the article, be prepared for more, as another 20 was promised at the end of it. Next in the row of the Professor Layton week things was kind of competition in between Sherlock Holmes and Professor Layton in the article titled Professor Layton v Sherlock Holmes. In the article we put each of Sherlock Holmes' character against corresponding Professor Layton one. What was the result of the competition? No, we surely won't tell you here. Reading of article is required according to know this, and yes, you can read it on our site, so please head there and start reading. 20 more things you didn't know about Professor Layton is the last article which was published on our site in this famous Professor Layton week. Some of the stated things were really unknown, and some, starting with the 40th one, were actually a fact you could see in the game. However, the article is here and you just have to conclude our Layton week reading it. There's not only Professor Layton which articles were out on our site this week, but we've published a review of other game as well. This time it is a boy and his blob, for we Knight-Nui reviews this game for you, which, by the way, will be launched for 3DS as well, but we didn't come to this point yet. what contains this kind of nest-style game and how a reviewer liked it in the first place. All this and more you can read in the review, so you're warmly invited to head to our site and read the writing. Jumping through Merlin forth and back, here's the third episode reviewed for you this week. In it, our reviewer only spurred thoughts about comedy elements being implanted into Merlin. Was that really bright idea or not? If you watch Merlin, then you already made your opinion about this. But if you don't, then here's the review to read and find out what we think. Not only our site, our TV is also set to Professor Layton this week. The first trailer of Professor Layton and Phoenix Wright's crossover is on our TV for all of you who are already curious what the game will contain. Warmly invited to watch it. This is everything we had to say in this Professor Layton edition. Hope you enjoyed it and will be with us again next week when we're preparing special Halloween edition for you. What will happen in the studio this year? Well, we certainly can't know, as 2 years ago there were only pumpkins steering through the windows. Last year the studio was in fire and ghosts were cheering and scaring all around. Hopefully we will be able to bring the news for you in at least a bit normal style, but we can't guarantee that. For now we're just saying, good night from Night Ghost and Knight-Nui staff.